All right, Knowles, you there?
I'm here. I'm back.
You're back. How you doing?
I have to thank you for this assignment because usually when I have to cover something terrible, such as, say, the World Cup, you make me watch it. But this assignment explicitly focuses on why nobody is watching the World Cup, including myself.
No one can watch the World. I mean, I have to say, I lived in Europe. I lived in England for 7 years, and I missed sports terribly. So I would try to watch what they hilariously call football.
Right.
And wait, I'm sorry, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, I was talking about, and I even 1 year dedicated myself to watching World Cup.
Drew, get up.
sorry.
You got a show on.
What were we talking about? You just can't. You can't watch it. First of all, nobody uses his hands. God gave you. You know why God gave you hands? To throw balls with. That's the whole point. God made balls. He made hands, and that's the whole point of it.
At least in hockey, you're using your feet a lot. You're kind of, skating and everything. But at least then you can rip the gloves off and start punching people in the face.
Exactly.
That requires hand-eye coordination. The soccer thing is just one of those experiences we have in our virtue signaling culture where everyone has to talk about it to prove they're a good person, but not a soul is watching it.
Nobody's watching it, right? Tell me nobody's watching it.
I got to tell you the good news, because I was a little nervous when I dug into these numbers. I thought maybe it really is getting popular. All I do is watch CNN. What do I know? Turns out nobody is watching the World Cup. World Cup ratings are down a full 50% in early metrics over 2014.
But that's only because it's so boring, right?
But what you would expect, by the way, is that people would turn it on to prove that they're a good person who likes Europe and, wah, and then just fall asleep and sleep for an hour or two, and then wake up, but they would still get the ratings. Even that is not happening. So that year, in 2014, that was the big highlight year. It happened in Brazil. People were finally pretending to watch. What's important to notice here is that the ratings on ESPN were significantly lower than the ratings on Univision. That tells you a lot of the story. This is obviously just a looking toward Latin America and toward Europe, trying to pretend like we would rather be like the rest of the world instead of like America. By the way, Fox News is posting a 61% drop over what ESPN had in 2014. So you've got Fox, a network, posting a 61% drop over that big year. There was some rebound on the second day of the World Cup this year. So what the fake news media are trying to tell you is, oh, that was just a weird glitch, but now it's all coming back. Not true. If your ratings drop 60% over its high, and then they rebound 50%, that is a very modest rebound for the second day. Now, part of the reason, by the way, why the U.S. Isn't watching is because we're not in this tournament.
Okay.
So, the reason we're not in the World Cup this year is that the United States, I don't even know if I can say this, we lost to Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, that just means our best athletes are going into other sports, right?
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and the grade schoolers who are playing a Major League Soccer, or they lost to Trinidad and Tobago.
I mean, this is true though. When you have in the arts, when poetry was the big thing, all the great writers became poets. When novels were the big thing, they became novelists. Now TV, all the good writers are going into TV. Nobody is going to go into the sport of soccer because nobody watches. No American athlete is going to go into the sport of soccer unless you can't get into anything else because nobody watches it.
I'm not the most athletic guy in the world, but if I were going to go into a sport, I would be more likely to put on my Rachel Maddow glasses and play in the WNBA before I would play in Major League Soccer.
And you have been having the God King. I don't know why the God King should grace your show. I mean, I can't imagine. Maybe it's just one of those things like he feels sad like Jesus feels sad for the poor, and
he condescends to come on.
But Jeremy Boring has been coming on your show and talking about this, and the fact that who do we get beaten by? Tobago?
Trinidad and Tobago.
Trinidad and Tobago. But that actually tells you something about the sport, doesn't it? It tells you that it is not a reflection of national skill or national talent or anything.
Of course it does. What it really is a large propaganda effort that has been going on for years.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
They're begging Americans to watch soccer. And it's interesting. I looked at all of these articles about it. Bleacher Report put up one, 5 reasons why Americans should like soccer. Fatherly.com. Sports dads should be watching soccer with their soccer playing kids. Real Clear Sports. Top 10 reasons to watch soccer instead of football. The Alabama newspaper, AL.com. Here are 5 reasons why you should be watching World Cup soccer. Fox 5, 4 reasons why Americans should care about the 2018 World Cup. If you need to convince somebody, it's probably not the most engaging sport.
And they're making a moral argument, aren't they? They're not making the argument that this thing is so great because, I mean, come on, they're making the argument there's something wrong with us for not liking this.
That's right. And no, I don't see articles popping up on ESPN. You have to watch Major League Baseball. Top 10 reasons why you should tune into football, because people like those sports, so they're going to watch it unless Colin Kaepernick starts spitting on the American flag. But people, even then, some people will still watch.
Right.
They're making these moral arguments, and BreakingMuscle.com, a website that I have just discovered, you imagine, not in my bookmarks queue, BreakingMuscle.com actually is pretty honest about this. They say that here are the 3 reasons Americans should love soccer and the 3 reasons they don't. The 3 reasons they should love soccer, I kid you not, they list athleticism, strategy, and fan enthusiasm. The 3 hallmarks of any sport, right? That is the definition of a professional sport.
That is a sport. Yeah.
And of course, it isn't terribly athletic. They fall on the ground and pretend it hurts. There isn't much strategy. A ball bounces back and forth and they just run around randomly. And fan enthusiasm, you're admitting there's no fan enthusiasm. So clearly, you're undercutting your own argument. But they're very honest in the reasons why they don't. And the 3 reasons speak to the anti-Americanism of soccer. The first is how they take dives. So, what soccer people do, when people play soccer at the age of 3 and they skin their knee, they're genuinely crying. They really hurt because they're little toddlers. When they do it at the age of 30, they're pretending, right? So they fall and they say, oh my gosh, it's the word. They bring out all the paramedics because they, stubbed their toe.
They do this in basketball a little bit, and I hate it. I just take the hit and keep going.
Well, the reason they do it is it's cheating. What they want, it really is. It's cheating. They want penalties to be incurred by the other side because the ability to win this game is basically non-existent. It's mostly random. There's a ton of power in the referees here. So you have penalty goals, right? Penalty goals, 85% of the time, penalty kicks just means a goal. There's when you kick a penalty, you're almost certainly going to score that goal. No. And games can be decided 1-0. So, like Europe, but unlike America, there is so much power in the hands of unelected, unaccountable referees who have nothing to do with the people playing the sport. And finally, soccer, and BreakingMuscle.com admits this, ends in ties a lot of the time. And America doesn't like ties.
Who likes ties?
We have been so upset about that tie on the Korean Peninsula 70 years ago that Donald Trump is staking his presidency on breaking it.
I mean, who really goes to a game to see people not win or lose? I mean, that is not why you go to the game.
Well, what you would expect, right, is what you have is the soccer players, they come out, and I don't know, they usually sit down and have a nice little tea set before, and they say, oh, good show, chap. Yes, well, we're all winners. Here's your participation trophy. But when we play sports, the reason we play sports is to vent some aggression, have a little bit of tribalism,
and show who's the best.
Exactly,
best.
And when you don't have that tie, then what happens, or when you have a tie or when you have a boring game that doesn't involve a lot of aggression or a lot of tribalism, is you have fans creating all of the aggression. So you have the soccer hooligans in the UK, and you have Mexico soccer fans creating man-made earthquakes over the weekend because of the soccer game.
Is that true?
That is true. You couldn't really feel it, but seismologists measured a two-level earthquake after the soccer game because the fans were stampeding because they needed a little athleticism. They were sleeping for so many hours they needed to get up and stretch their their legs.
But it is true that if the teams are not going to beat each other, if they're not going to win, it makes incredible frustration. And the fact that the ball moves back and forth across that field for it's like an hour, I guess.
Yeah.
It moves back and forth across that field and never goes in the damn goal. I mean, that would drive anybody insane. No
until the
wonder they're
referee
soccer.
decides, until the unelected EU bureaucrat, I assume, decides that someone is going to score a goal or not. It makes you go cross-eyed. You go there.
You know, the other thing about this, underneath all this, is an attack on American exceptionalism. It's an attack on the idea that America should be different from the history of the world, the rest of the world, which leads me to ask the question, have any of these journalists read the history of the world? Do they know how bad it has been until we got here? I mean, really, this last few years of America has been the best the history of the world has ever been because of us, you know? It's like all we get from Europe for 2,000 years was murder and mayhem and bloodshed, and we finally crushed them. We finally managed to destroy them. And now it's been peaceful. It's pretty peaceful, you know, occasional Muslim blowing something up. But aside from that, I just think they're completely out of their mind.
By the way, Iran has a soccer team in the World Cup, but that's neither here nor there. That's a cheap shot, as are all shots in soccer. The problem here is that it's all about this reflexive anti-Americanism.
Yep.
There's not much logic to it. You know, even the people promoting soccer admit that the logic of the sport is a little weak. It's and not quite American. But there's no logic. They just say, well, the world is doing it. Everyone else is doing it.
Right,
and
exactly.
so we should, because we're bad and we're the baddies and they're the good ones.
Yeah, they should leave their offices and visit the rest of the world. They'll know why we want to be exceptional. What's on your show today?
So today we've actually got, because we haven't covered this enough, we have the God King of the Daily Wire. We do have the Daily Wire 2 sports correspondent Jeremy Boring coming on the show to discuss soccer. We're also going to be talking about zero tolerance. This is going to be my new zero tolerance policy. We're going to be separating fake Republicans from their party. And we're going to be analyzing that through the ages. So it should be fun. Much more fun than the World Cup.
Well, that's not saying much, but all right. Thanks a lot, Knowles. I'll see you later.
See you, Drew.